I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Twisted Metal co-creator and showrunner Michael Jonathan Smith. Michael, Twisted Metal is subversive, action-packed, violent, and it's also really irreverent and quite funny, which I really wasn't expecting. There's hallmarks of like The Boys, Deadpool, Zombieland in there. Talk me through how you went about striking the right balance to get the show's tone just right.
Yeah, I mean, part of it just came from the fact that there's a lot of post-apocalyptic shows out there, and a lot of
Yeah.
them are very dark and dreary and depressing and heavy, and weighty. And I came at this show wanting to create something else, wanting to find a different kind of post-apocalyptic show that was more fun and upbeat and dark, but in a way that you're just sort of like those shows that you like, the movies that you mentioned, like Deadpool and Zombieland, that kind of captured that irreverent comedy and just something that mixed it all together and was something that you could just enjoy immediately and just have a blast with. And Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, who co-created the show with me, I mean, they come from Zombieland and they wrote Zombieland and Deadpool, so a lot of it was, inspired by that and wanting to just have a different kind of hero. I mean, Mad Max is obviously a big inspiration of mine in the show, and Mad Max is about a character who does not talk very much, so it was fun to think about what would be the opposite of that. What is the kind of hero that would use comedy and use quips and a sense of humor to survive the apocalypse and just compartmentalize the fact that he's constantly, getting shot at.
Man, I'm so happy that you said that because to me, Anthony Mackie in this role, this character, John Doe, or what,
Yeah.
he's like the mirror universe Mad Max,
Yes.
being a sci-fi nerd and being an Aussie. So Mad Max is in my DNA,
I love
right? So um, that's so interesting that you put it that way. And I can't imagine the show without Anthony. Like, he is so magnetic. What does he bring to the table creatively as the number one on the call sheet, as the guy who sets the tone amongst all the cast?
I mean, look, Anthony is a joy to work with. He comes on set, is like he's not one of those leads or number ones on the call sheet who ignores the crew, walks to his trailer. He has a very nice trailer, but that's not like he comes on set, he says hi to everyone, he jokes around with the crew. They go out every Friday. I mean, he's very much sets the tone that this is a fun show. And look, it's not everyone's show is hard. I mean, everyone has challenges, and our show has a very specific challenge. It's not an easy show to make, and Anthony really makes sure that it's fun from the get-go. And I pride myself on the fact that we have a no a-holes policy. I don't know if you can swear on this thing, but we don't, we want this to be, it's not, the show has to feel fun, and if you aren't having fun, something's going wrong. So we need to make sure that from the jump, the mood is set and the tone is set, and Anthony does a great job doing that.
Yeah, absolutely does. I then was thinking, given the genre and the fact that it's based on an old PlayStation game,
Yeah.
there must be some inevitable expectation from fans of the game and just of the genre in general. How much do you want to be faithful to the concepts that the game introduces and also then feel that you can just focus on making a great TV series? Is that something that you've always had to navigate on this show?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough challenge, especially with the video game community, who is extremely outspoken.
Yeah.
Uh, and I made jokes before the show came out that I hope I don't get doxxed, and thankfully I didn't. But no, the balance is tough, and the way I've always approached it is, look, the one benefit of Twisted Metal, being a fan of the games, is that they always kind of changed every iteration. Like no two iterations were the same, so that kind of gave us a license, so to speak, to change it up a little bit. And that's how I approached it was, okay, we have these characters, Sweet Tooth and John Doe and Calypso, and how would these characters exist in this specific world that we've created? And what would be the same about them and what would change about them? And my biggest thing is I want to give the fans what they want, just not in the way they think they want it. So
Yeah.
with Sweet Tooth's a great example. Like we looked at the core of what that character is. And for those who haven't watched, which I hope you do watch, Sweet Tooth is a psychopathic clown. He's a mass murderer. He, and in the games, that's pretty much what he is. He just kills a lot of people and he's very insane. He lights his hair on fire. So the way
Yeah.
we approached him in the show is he is a character in his soul. He is unbalanced and, crazy, so to speak, because he feels everything. He feels every single emotion. So he'll be happy and then angry and then turn on a dime and be like, well, why didn't you like my show? So it was really about creating what is the core of the character and then how do we, you know, adapt it. And we, with Sweet Tooth, we had to make sure he looked exactly like he came out of the game because that character is very much a fan favorite. And that is the number one expectation for our show, is making sure we nail Sweet Tooth. But what was fun was, how do we find new ways? Like we have the Convoy and Watts and all these other characters, and how do we take more license with the smaller characters that are lesser known, but still find the core of what makes them tick?
Yeah. And by the way, Samoa Joe is
Best.
phenomenal.
He's
Oh
so
man, I
amazing.
can't believe you found him. And I just love everything about the Sweet Tooth character, Will Arnett. The whole thing, it just works. And that would have been, if it was me, terrifying, because I know that you would have been completely demolished online if he hadn't got that
100%. No, he was
right.
definitely a thing to balance and a character that is, we were joking saying he's so big it takes two people to play him, but it's so fun. And Joe and Will are great. And part of the fun of making that character so singular is we let Joe do everything. He reads the script, he does the lines, he performs from beginning to end, and we give him a lot of notes about facial expressions and he's very physical. And what's
Yeah.
great is we let him do his thing, and then in post we let Will do his thing, and we kind of edit to both of them. So we're letting both people, both actors, add to the character so it doesn't feel like Will has to do what Joe did on stage, and it's not like Joe has to perform ADR that Will recorded months ago.
Wow. I mean, I just from as a layperson, that could go so wrong. It could really be such a problem for you, but it just works. So
Thank you.
congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And what about the fact that the show is so physically demanding? Like, there's so much that there's a choreographed fight sequences, car chases. There's a lot of blood and guts and gore. It's really like amped. It's an amped show. I feel like I'm on lots of drugs. Is that it? Were you surprised? Like you knew you were going into a challenge, but are
Yeah.
you surprised about how difficult it was actually to pull this off?
I knew it was going to be difficult. I came from other stunt shows. I worked on Cobra Kai before Twisted Metal,
Yeah.
and was a producer on it. So I had experience with what it was like to do a lot of stunts all the time. And I think that prepared me for knowing what to expect. I did not expect the amount of tender loving care these cars needed to work, how they would overheat on a dime, how, if the road was a little dirty, it'd be tough to drive on. So I think that was the thing I was the most surprised about. But I'll say what I think made it so much easier was that everyone was just so game. They knew we were doing something that you don't see on TV very often, if at all. And it gave everyone a chance to be ambitious and try something new. And I think that's also how we got some amazing actors. Like Anthony, obviously he comes from Marvel, but he's never done a romantic comedy before. And that was something that was drawn to the character because the show's a love story at its heart. And then you've got Stephanie Beatrice, who's comes from comedy, and I'm a huge fan of her work. And but
Yeah.
she's never done a ton of action, and that was something she was really interested in doing. And she was amped at the thought of doing hand-to-hand combat and driving and things like that. So it was really fun to let these actors come in and give them a chance to do something they haven't done before. And I think that was what made the ambitiousness of our show feel more tangible because everyone was game. If everyone was like dragging their feet, I think it would have been a much harder show to do. But everyone was just so excited to try this and to make it work, and it worked.
And it worked. And the beauty of it is it goes out into the world, it becomes a hit, and then you get a season two, so you can keep going.
Yeah, feel very lucky.
That's I wish I could say just tell me everything about season two, but we don't want it. We want it to be a surprise.
we
It
got some
just
good we got some good shit coming down the pike. I'll say that. We just wrapped the writers room, and it's going to be a wild season, so I can't wait.
oh my God, I'm so excited. Mate, thank you so much for your time today. Congrats on some really amazing work and thank you for your insight.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.